My name is Sarah Bancroft, and I am an art historian and a curator. I had the great privilege to work at the Guggenheim, where I co-curated James Rosenquist's retrospective and worked as a curator for many years after that. And beginning in 2015, Jim asked me to come and work for his foundation and his studio. So I am the vice president and the director of James Rosenquist Studio and the executive director of the James Rosenquist Foundation. James Rosenquist is one of the founders, if you can call it that, of the American pop art movement. He, along with his contemporaries, Roy Lichtenstein and Andy Warhol, were really grouped together by art historians and curators at the time. They weren't working together as a group, but other people kind of saw what the zeitgeist was at that moment, saw young artists painting figuratively, which coming out of a moment where abstract expressionism was at the apex of the art world. These young upstarts painting in this fashion was quite shocking. And so there were, curators like Henry Geldzahler at the Met and wonderful gallerists around town who started to show them together. And it was really quite a shock, this artwork at that time. So he was one of the artists at the forefront of this group, and in the early 60s became known as an American pop artist. And he's really pushed himself over the decades to create new forms. He's never repeating what he did before. James Rosenquist was born in North Dakota and grew up in Minnesota, spent most of his young life in the Midwest, the middle of the country, and as with so many young people with artistic dreams and aspirations, he moved to New York. And there he studied at the Art Students League, and he worked as a commercial artist in order to support himself. So before he became known as an American pop artist, he was really standing on the boards, as billboard artists called it, painting commercial advertisements. And his focus was on these large, massive advertisements. In his private time, in his little studio, he was drawing tiny abstract drawings. In 1960, a friend of his and a colleague fell off the boards and died, and Jim realized he didn't want to be painting commercially anymore, and he moved into a studio in Coenties Slip in Lower Manhattan and focused on his fine art career, and very quickly thereafter his career gained momentum and he became known as one of the American pop artists. When Rosenquist moved into the space on Coenties Slip, his work changed pretty dramatically. Rather than making small abstract drawings, he started incorporating elements of the commercial advertisements into his own work. So he would take snippets of images, make a collage from them, kind of creating these unexpected juxtapositions, and then use the collage to paint the canvas. And those became the very first pop paintings of his. In the Marais Gallery, there's a beautiful collection of Jim's source collages. Almost every painting has a source collage, which is a working document for him. He created these collages, snipping imagery from advertisements, women's magazines, Life, Time, or from photographs he had commissioned or taken himself, ultimately even from photocopies he had made. These grew out of his billboard painting experience. Whatever it was that he needed to paint on the billboard, he was given a small image, and he would use that image to scale up on a massive billboard. So when he started painting his own works, he decided that he would continue in that tradition, but rather than using imagery that had been given to him, he chose the imagery, juxtaposed it in unexpected ways to create a composition of his own making, and then painted the canvas from these collages. The collages are working documents. He did not show them to people for many decades. He was very secretive about them. He didn't want people to understand the process of how he composed the work. So they didn't really enter the realm of the public until the 90s. And for the Guggenheim retrospective, he very generously allowed us, I should say we convinced him that it was important to show a much larger body of work because they are revelatory. They're revelatory to his process, to the conceptual backbone of each painting, and quite frankly, they're works of art in their own right. Well, I have the great privilege to come in and experience the beauty of it without all of the pain of being the organizer. And that also means I can comment and tell you what I think about this space. It's a perfect marriage between architecture and painting. There's enough space for these paintings to breathe. Many of these works are enormous, monumental in scale, and yet they feel quite calm and at peace here. It's almost cathedral-like. It's an incredible show. This gallery is really a destination, and I can't imagine a better place for these works to be shown.